Welcome to the Deadpool Atomic Mass Transmissions Live, brought to you by me, the amazing Deadpool. Once terminal cancer patient Wade Wilson, I, the aforementioned Wade Wilson, was transformed into an incredible superpowered hero, Deadpool. Thanks to the nerds at the Weapon X program, I was granted an off the charts healing factor, which allows me to recover from even the most gruesome, for the love that's all that holy, look away, Timmy, injuries. I'm also basically a ninja, except expert marksman, a master in multiple martial arts, including the deadliest of all, karate, and I speak like 9 languages. But my greatest superpower of all is my dazzling wit and immeasurable charm. Though teams like the X-Men and Avengers would literally kill to have someone like me on their roster, I, the aforementioned Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool, remain Los Lobos, a lone wolf who hunts the moonlight desert in search of the only meal that will satisfy my endless hunger: justice. Also, they haven't been returning any of my calls or emails. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Atomic Mass Transmissions Live. Today is the day that many of you have all been waiting for. That's right, the Merc with a Mouth, the amazing, astonishing, X-Force running Deadpool, Wade Wilson, has shown up. So today we're going to dive in and we're going to paint this fantastic character. We're going to be just doing the basic colors for this one. We have much more Deadpool action coming on the way to go. But we're going to be doing the classic red and black. I think Dallas is going to be doing something a little more X-Force inspired with the black and the white. I tried to convince him to do pink, but I don't think he bought it. But today we're just kind of going to do that standard classic Deadpool color scheme. We'll see how far we get in an hour, and maybe we'll come back and visit Deadpool next week. So you can see that I opted for a couple of different options on my Deadpool. I did not put the swoosh on, although I could add that later if you wanted to. That is an optional bit on the rocket. Because I'm going for a little bit more of that mixture of Deadpool where we've got like the raised super eyebrow. You can see there that he's looking very quizzical as he does his backflip over his rocket. I decided to leave the foosh off. Also, the sword kind of got in the way for me. So this is an amalgamation of the 2 different versions of Deadpool that you have. There's actually a lot of different ways to build this fella here. You can obviously go with the ballerina like cutesy pose, which you've seen on several of the marketing images. You can go with a very serious like leaping forward into action pose, or you can start playing with the different parts and combine the two. So I have kind of the more serious torso with the kicky back ballerina leg, and this has led to something where I feel like he's really kind of doing a little side flip over the rocket and giving you that Deadpool classic eyeball of like, what's up, bub, as he gives Wolverine the finger guns at the same time for being much less cool than him. So with that in place, let's go ahead and dive right in and get Mr. Wade Wilson underway. So we're going to start with the color that I haven't visited on the stream for a while. We're going to start with some Holder Blue. And effectively what I want to do here is I'm going to use this Holder Blue as an undertone. So I'm going to turn it into a very thin wash. I have my hair dryer all prepped and ready, which I stole from my wife. So it's sitting right next to me, which means that I'm going to be able to dry this wash much quicker because we're going to apply it over all of Deadpool. My goal here is, again, to create a nice little undertone that's going to help me do natural shading for the reds, because blue is a great way to shade red. Blue is actually a great shading tone for a lot of different colors. It's so strong and punchy. But we're going to use that for our reds, and then we're going to use it kind of as an undertone for our black, and this is going to allow us to use a wash of black and get kind of that natural bluish hue that we want that's going to make it look really nice. It'll tie in a bit to our red undertone as well because we're going to use the same color for everything. So this is going to just be kind of how we start. So I've thinned this out pretty well, and I've just used a mixture of Vallejo glaze medium and water on my Holder Blue. It's a super punchy color, so I don't have to worry too much about thinning it down a lot. And again, I just want this to kind of tint the surfaces of the miniature, and I can kind of liberally apply it everywhere, even over the places of the brown leathers. I'm not going to be too particular or careful about this because, again, the vast majority of my Deadpool is black and red, and I want this color to do a lot of the work for me when it comes to our next steps. Another exciting element for me anyway is that this is a brand new brush. I just broke it out of the packaging right before the stream here. So I'm hoping that this is going to give me a little bit more Control, a bit better of a point to play with as well, so we'll see what happens. I usually sit with brushes for a little bit longer than I probably should. I treat them like forever friends. They're not, especially with the amount of painting that I can get done on a good week. I put them through the ringer, and I will be honest, I'm not the best at meticulously taking care of my brushes as I use them. So I don't use any kind of like after painting cleaners or reconditioners or anything like that. I kind of just clean them off the best I can in water, throw them back into the cup, and know that part of the hobby is replacing those brushes from time to time. But you can still get a lot of really good work out of them. My brushes typically last, if they're good ones, up to 6 months, sometimes a year. I have a couple of brushes I've had for over almost 2 years now. So with proper maintenance and care, you can definitely take these things really, really far. But that's all about what you're comfortable with, much like when painting. You gotta make those choices for yourself and just go forward with it. Point being, very excited to have a brand new brush going on here. So we're just gonna continue to lay this color down, and you can see we now have this very pastel-y blue Deadpool going on, which isn't too terrible. We could really have some fun, I think, with this general color going on if we wanted to. But this is not our end goal. Our end goal here is to get him into his fighting fit red and black. All right, so I'm just gonna go off camera here for a second. If you hear the sound of a beautiful hairdryer, it's because, well, we're getting Deadpool dry for the next step. Hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. All right, drying times in a flash. So we're right back to it. Pretty happy with this coverage. So you can see it's just a nice light undertone. We've let the Zenith Prime do a lot of the work. We certainly still have a lot of those highs and lows in the tones, and this is going to work really well with our reds. All of the stops. I even pulled some of the Deadpool cards if BK wants to do some spoiler action on this very special Merc with a Mouse stream. So I'm like fully prepared. I know Dallas got to show off the plastic for Mr. Sinister on his last Crystal stream, which was pretty cool. Super awesome character. I'm really, really impressed with how our engineer team was able to come up with some of the cuts and manage his whole cape, because he's got one of the craziest capes, I think, in the Marvel Universe. Maybe next to Cloak, who's kind of cheating because he's just all cloak. But, okay, so we've moved on from that. We're all ready to go. I've got everything going on. BK immediately texted me. I was like, spoilers! Unlike Josh, I think he's excited and not excited. So I'm going to be using Model Air Red, which is something that we've used before as well. One of the great things about the Model Air colors is they're previously thin, so they work really well as in a natural wash because they've been thinned for that airbrush. So you don't have to add any kind of like glaze medium to them or anything like that. They have a nice translucency, and they work really, really well over colors. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to start splooching in our red, and we're going to build this color up over a few various shades. And we're going to see that as we build this color up slowly, that blue is going to play as an undertone over our red. In fact, we might have even thinned this out just a little bit more than we needed to based on the fact that we did do that blue undertone. So we're just going to go through, and now I want to be a little careful to make sure that I'm only hitting those areas that are going to be red, because I want that Huldra blue to be preserved for when I do the black wash over the areas of the miniature that I want to have black on it. And I am using our stat card reference artwork right now to just pick out the colors for my Deadpool. He's going to look a bit like a Peppermint Nightmare for a little while we build up these layers. but you just want to stick with it. Again, make sure that you're keeping those layers nice and thin. And I am going over the eyes because I just don't have a great vantage point to make sure. Normally my head would be like right in there if I wanted to make sure, but I can go back through and black out the eyes much, much easier going forward. All right, so we're going to come down here and we're going to watch this little leg panel. Come over. So we have a lot of red in here. And then we have the same leg panel over here. We just have to watch for these little straps. We'll kind of build that out like that. Then we want to come down and we're going to come over. So that black panel is hidden by the strap on the guns. I'm not too worried about getting the red slopped over on anything else like the straps, because again, those are just going to get bulked in with a bit of brown. I think we'll make our boots, back of the boots we'll make red, and then I think I'm going to do a little something different, and I'm going to make the front shin guard, we might do black just for some color variation. But we'll see how we feel. Then we want to come in under the shoulder. I'm going to do this all red. Get things out. So leave that. And we're just going to make the whole shoulder black because that's kind of what it looks like from my reference that I'm looking at here. And of course, you can do anything that you want that feels about right. But we're just playing with things right now and making it feel good. Making it feel good. Now, if I wanted to, I could skip the undertone step and I could have just put my red over my zenith prime and then gone back through, created kind of a crimson wash using some red and blue ink or paint or anything that I liked. And then basically spotted out and done the base layer with the red, let the zenith work, and then gone through and hit it with the wash. But I wanted to do something a little different today. I wanted to play with the undertones. We did a little bit of that on Medusa last time. We did the undertone on her purple outfit. So I thought it'd be fun to just kind of continue forward with this kind of process where you do the shading first as an undertone. You do really thin layers in the top in the wash, and you let those colors kind of play together and play with each other through translucence. And we're just going to see what we come up with and how that ultimately looks. I'm expecting it to look pretty fun and nice. You never know. We like to experiment. The only way that you ever get better or learn new techniques is simply by trying them. So this is kind of like where we're at right now. But you can already see how that blue is really playing really nicely with that red and all these little folds and stuff. And of course, we need to do a couple more coats to really build it out. But I think I'm going to switch to my black really quick, and we're just going to black out all those blue areas as well. So it looks a little less like a blue raspberry cherry mixed icy. And we'll go from there. So I'm just going to use, the Vallejo blackwash, which is part of their game line. It's a pre-mixed black. I find that it works really well right out of the pot. And this will stop me from having to remix stuff as I go back. And I really just want something to tint that blue down. And so this will do the trick really nicely. I'm going to switch out my brushes, something a little more. So I'm just switching down one size on my brush. And I'm just going to start going in, and we're just going to start washing in the black. And so just by building up these washes over the course of several layers, we're effectively just looking to tint our surfaces. So if at first the effect seems really subtle, that's okay. That's kind of what we want. We want this to be a little slow application, but by doing it in this manner, again, we're going to let that undertone really show through. We're going to tint everything down, kind of using a glaze. It's almost like a glaze. It's not, I don't think technically it fits the glaze mentality, because I really want this black to pool into recesses because I want the recesses of my black to be darker than the highlights. And I want that blue to show through a bit on the higher edges of things. And so it's a bit more of a measured approach. I don't know if this will get us to a tabletop ready miniature within the hour, but that's okay. Not everything has to be done in an hour. Deadpool's an awesome enough character that I really feel like I want to make sure that I'm giving him that time and that consideration, and we can spend a little bit longer on him than we would with something else. Of course, if you find that your black is just a little too weak, you can always punch it up, either by not thinning it as much, or you can add a little bit of black paint. Like for example, I might take a little bit of abyssal blue and mix it in on my next coat, because I feel like we can punch it up just a little bit without losing the effect that I'm going for. But this is really just playing with the colors and playing with my paint consistency and seeing what's happening. This is very free form. I'll be honest with you, I don't have a plan for this. I didn't do a test of Deadpool, so this is the first time I'm painting this character. And certainly one of the first times I'm really playing with these techniques in this way with the Holder Blue and stuff. So we're going on an adventure together. And we're going to see how it all works out. But with a little bit of patience and perseverance, even if we wind up not liking any of it, which is possible, it is certainly something that can be fixed fairly easily because we're using nice thin layers. We're being really careful with our applications and we're going forward. So you can see how that black is starting to tint down. I'm going to switch back to my red. We should have had enough time for our first red layer to pretty much dry on us. So we're not using a lot of thinners. We're just going to go back through and do that second thin coat. Again, we want to make sure that we're maintaining that translucency on that blue, so we're getting that nice natural shading. And everything's working out like we want it to. Playing around, I think experience next time would tell me to just leave I don't typically paint in sub-assemblies, but I certainly think leaving the katana sheath off the back could be really helpful. So I might recommend, if you don't mind, having one or two pieces in sub-assembly, to think about doing that with your Deadpool. They're not impossible to paint around, but I think just from a speed standpoint, I'd be a lot faster if I wasn't having to manipulate around them. Something to consider. Come back in, just carefully hit this section. The torso is definitely where you want to be the carefulest because you do have these nice costume separation lines. If you do make a little mistake like I just did. The great thing about working with these really thin washes and paints is that you can just grab your secondary brush and blend it right out. Not have to worry about it. And again, I'm not going to worry too much about those eyes because I can go back through and clean them up later with some black. Just like I hit the arms, then we'll switch back and we'll go back to our black. And I think I am going to add just a little bit of that abyssal blue into my black wash, just to help speed things up a little bit and add a bit more of that deeper color to the Holder Blue to let it play a little better. Just come back through up here. That. Back through here. Golden. All right. So our second wash of red. Again, you can see how those undertones are really starting to work for us. We have our dark abs, his sick Deadpool abs. We have dark lines here and all of that stuff. So we already have a lot of our shading done because of how that red is playing with that undertone. So now we just have to get our black to a spot where we're going to be pretty happy with it. So again, I'm going to add just a little bit of Abyssal Black, which is a nice black blue. I'm going to use a bit of that black wash again, mix more of that stuff up. I'm just looking for something that's going to tint really nicely. Oop. That Huldra blue undertone. So let's go back in, mix all this up. Send it out a little bit. Hopefully everyone's ready for this week of streams. We got a whole lot of stuff coming at you. The foot is connected to the rocket, so there's a big plug that goes in right here. So there's his foot has a big plug and there's a hole right here and it just goes right in. So for those asking in chat about his connections, and of course you get all the heads. So here's the head frame, so you can see the heads that I didn't wind up using. So you've got hard eyes, you've got happy face, you've got serious face. So, and then of course you got your swoosh. That's from a different frame that I didn't clip off. You have all your torsos and everything. There's a ton of options when playing with your Deadpool. You can make them however you want. That was really important to us from a design standpoint. I know that for some people, you know, they remember the original Deadpool, who was a lot less comical. When he was first introduced, you know, he had his humor, but it wasn't quite as clownish or as over the top as it is now, and has been in recent years. For me, I really like the more silly Deadpool, and I find that version of the character to really speak to me in ways. You know, I use humor a lot in rough situations as well as kind of a coping mechanism. Deadpool obviously does something similar. So for me, I just resonate with the more goofy side of Deadpool and more where the modern character is. And so we wanted to, in everything that we did with the character, from sculpt all the way to rules, we wanted to try to meet all the different interpretations of Deadpool and give everybody kind of an option that allowed the character to run the gamut a bit in terms of the different interpretations and what people view and want out of the character. You know, do you want to be a little more silly? Do you want to be a little more serious? And then, of course, there's a lot of flexibility just within the hobby to make even more determinations, like I did with mixing the different parts to come up with something that was unique compared to kind of what's listed in the instruction sheet. And so there's a lot of opportunity for you all out there to put your stamp on it as well. And that's the whole joy and point of the hobby, is to be able to do that and have some awesome times and make things that are uniquely yours and fit your likes and loves. And of course, we're painting Senior Wade Wilson here because he'll be releasing next month in his epic pack of him, Bob, Agent of Hydra, who will be painting as well on stream. We did a Bob for Thanksgiving last year, just as a fun little surprise Thanksgiving stream. We're going to do Bob again because he deserves multiple streams. He's a hardworking Agent of Hydra, a true hero, an everyman's hero, if you will. And we'll also be doing some taco truck painting because you can't have a Deadpool without a taco truck, if we're being really honest with ourselves here. Come on. So you can see how those washes are starting to really like tone in and tone down that Huldra blue. And they're acting as that nice little undershade and everything. And so we're getting some really nice blacks very quickly without a lot of work. So With that in place, I think what I want to do next is I'm going to let that black dry a little bit. I think we'll just go in and we'll see what we can do within an hour. So we'll start blocking out the leathers on Senior Deadpool. I'm going to use the scale 75 brown leather just as a nice little base. It's kind of an umber color. It has a pretty nice richness to it, and it'll play well with our other colors, our blues and our reds, and all that good stuff. And when we go back over with our next little coat of washes, it should be strong enough that even if we do a little sloppy mess, we won't lose anything. So we're just going to lay this in. Again, if it takes 2-ish coats of loosened paint, I've added just a little water to this. I'm not using it as a wash. So this is mostly straight out of the pot with just a little bit of water like you would with any kind of base coat. So we're just doing the classic base coating approach here. Another really cool thing about the way that Marco and the team did the Deadpool engineering is that this pistol right here is completely optional. You can put it on his hip, you can leave it off his hip. He's got little belt buckles in case that you don't want the pistol holster right there, and you can just have him have the straps in the legs, which was kind of a neat little option that they provided. We're always kind of looking to find nice, smooth ways to add variation and choice for the hobbyist without necessarily making the sculpt more complex or having the pose have to change. That's one of the biggest things when it comes to miniature options, is that you have to be careful that you're choosing things that don't cause the pose to lose its excitement. You definitely want to make sure that if you even change where an arm is positioned, now all of a sudden you're talking about all of the anatomy of the chest is changing, the way the muscles are changes. Maybe the head position has to change. You turn the head, and the neck has to change, the shoulder muscles. There's a lot of stuff that goes on, especially with characters that are just wearing skin-tight suits, so you can see all the musculatures. The superhero suit is pretty revealing. It shows everything, I would say. So you want to be aware of all of that anatomy, because making sure that the muscles look right and it's placed in the right spot, the tension's there to tell the story of the action and stuff, it's going to make for a more exciting looking miniature, even if the viewer doesn't really understand the ins and out of artistic anatomy. Your brain knows what bodies can and can't do. It's been manipulating your body for a long, long time and watching other people's bodies move. So when you suddenly see something and you go, that looks really unnatural, that's because your brain just knows. That's not how a knee aligns with a foot, unless it's broken, unless something's horribly wrong, something's gone completely awry, things like that. So always something you have to keep in mind as well as you start working on this stuff. And as we look at engineering and sculpt and pose and all of that, it's a fine balance of making sure that everybody is going to see the thing the way we want it to be seen, that it's going to look really badass and cool. All right, so we got the brown straps on, kind of laid out. Blacks are looking pretty good. I do want to do one more kind of one more bit over that. The katana blades, I'm going to go ahead and just give the wrappings of the katanas a brown. And then if we don't like it, we can always come back and figure it out later. This up. Certainly the engineering and the posing of the kit and all of the options and stuff was one of the big things that we focused on and worked at. Rules-wise and character development-wise, we had a lot of fun with Deadpool. He, of course, is an integral part of the Dead Force, or the X-Force, not the Dead Force, it's the X-Force affiliation. And then, you know, he's kind of that wild card otherwise that can pop in and break the fourth wall and make people have to deal with his zany antics or his, you know, serious mercenary ways. You never know with Deadpool. All right, I'm going to go back just one more time, I think over the red and the black, and I'm going to start with the black really quick. I'm pretty happy with where we're going, and then we're going to black out those eyes as well so that we can be in a good spot towards the end of this to say, hey, look at us go. So we're just going to go one more time over this, and we're going to be pretty careful to not get anything on our red. So from the game rules perspective, you know, we didn't want the standard version of Deadpool to be doing anything that was like super weird. Obviously, again, there's a lot of people who love the crazy, like, fourth wall breaking nonsense of Deadpool. There are people who definitely like their stories and their game experience to be a little more serious. So we had to make sure to balance all of those different wants and desires, and we wanted to make something that felt very Deadpool-y, but kind of split the difference between Deadpool as the hardcore mercenary with the mouth and the zany, more modern, crazy Deadpool with the fourth wall breaks. And so some of his rules we had a lot of fun naming. We made sure that there were opportunities for people to really get involved. I think my favorite of his overall rules is his ranged attack that he has, which maybe if I can be clever here, I can show the card without spoiling everything for BK. So I don't want to take away all of his thunder, but some of his thunder might be okay. He said spoilers were good. He was very excited. So let's just finish out this black and then we'll see where we can go with it. Since, you know, our fourth wall breaker Deadpool here probably is deserving of breaking our spoiler stance on some of the strings. It's a new world under the BK. A new world. So we're just going to finish this out. And we're going to take a second. And we will get things going. Come back through and hit this shin guard really quick. There we go. Get these gloves. Do that. I think one of the fun parts about working on somebody like Deadpool is that you just get so much license to do so many things. You know, we got to really kind of flex our creativity and silliness when it came to the Deadpool and X-Force release trailer video that we dropped last year. Obviously the back of box text, which I horribly read at the start of this, was super fun to write and just come up with, and making it as silly and ridiculous as possible and kind of homage to Deadpool's inner monologue, especially on that more characterful side. There we go. All right, so now, really quick, I just want to hit those eyes. So I'm going to grab a little bit of our abyssal blue and a little bit of black, flat black. Might take a little bit of our holder that we mixed out. We're just going to come in and really, really carefully following the sculpt lines here. Trying to hit these. Make sure that expression is nice and big. And then we're going to come back over here. Ooh, try to get on camera. Like that. A little bit more light so I can see what I'm doing. Now that we're not working with that really glary zenith prime, we can pick up our studio lighting just a little bit. Let's come in and black this out. Let's go back in and give him his big white pupils, his mask eyes, his Spider-Man peepers, as I like to call them. So there we go. Now we got that facial definition going on. A lot more like Deadpool. All right, let's see. Taunted you enough. Yeah, the foosh is separate for those asking. So it's right here. So you can attach it or you cannot attach it. Doesn't matter. There's no plugs, it just kind of like sets in there. It has cutouts and stuff. All right, let's see. What do I got here? What do I have that I can block? This will work, probably. Yeah, here we go. So my favorite ability on Deadpool is, oh, all right, I'm going to move Deadpool off and bring this in. His attack, it's called Bang, but it has a couple of triggers, as you can see. There's Bang Bang, and then maybe if you do Bang Bang, you can get Bang Bang Bang. So all said to go, you can have Bang 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 Bang, and there's nothing more enjoyable at the end of the day than shrieking at a Pagani across a playtest table about how you're using bang, and then you're bang banging, and then you're bang bang bang. Um, Asking about, so the chat's asking a little bit about Deadpool and did we want him like in MCP right away? Did we know? I think like for us, it certainly we have a lot of folks on staff who were huge Deadpool fans, and I think Deadpool's importance overall has really grown in terms of Marvel and the people's awareness thanks to media and movies, and he's been featured everywhere, and I think that he just brings a sense and a personality to the universe that is fun and unique and um, can really make people excited. So I would say yes. I mean, he was always a character that I knew I wanted to see on the tabletop and in games as soon as we could get him, and so that was part of kind of our overall planning and looking, and he offsets some of the more serious tones from characters like, I love the X-Men, but sometimes it's just nice to look at the world and be like, okay, well, some things are just ridiculous. Let's not take everything as life and death, world-ending events. Sometimes you just want to get a taco. And so in that way, it was just kind of a nice breath of air from some of the more serious stuff. Definitely, and a chance to really flex our sense of fun, right? We're, at the end of the day, we're all just doing this stuff because it's a blast, and we love it. We love the world. We love laughing together. We love being silly together. I think Deadpool really lets you embrace that in a way that is unique to the character, and I think that's why he resonates with so many people in the way that he does, because he lets you just be that silly, crazy kid, sitting around at the lunch table in school and you're laughing about things that don't make any sense to adults because they're just funny to you. And I think that's one of the things that makes Deadpool so magical and enjoyable as a character, and was a joy to do. maybe share that card that I was using to block. This was one of the cards that I really enjoyed working to create. Sometimes you just want to get a taco. Exactly. Sometimes you just want to get a taco. I want to get tacos all the time. Let's be honest. So I just did one more layer of my red just to kind of like tone things out and get everything nice and smooth. And I'm pretty happy with where we're going for an hour. I think we are going to be able to knock this guy out within the allotted time. We have 20 minutes left. I think we're doing pretty good. I'm going to mix up a highlight for the leather. I'm just going to use that. I'm going to use that brown leather color, which we had, which is right here. So we're just going to grab brown leather, which was our base, and I'm going to mix it with, what do I want? What do I want? What do I want? We'll use some of this brown Dubai. Why not? And we're just gonna kind of mesh those two together and create kind of a texture color for highlighting, and then we can wash that down if we want to, and I think it'll look pretty nice. So we just want to brighten this up a bit. So I'm not going to worry about covering most of the base coat. We'll just leave a little bit of it showing. Kind of a really heavy layer highlight. We got to get the little symbol on his belt, of course. But again, this is kind of our Deadpool in an hour, down and dirty. Then maybe next week we'll go back and, depending on what our schedule looks like, we might take him to that next level. Just be like, Deadpool Beyond. What can you do to kind of bring him to that next step? Similar to what we did a little bit with Medusa. Or we'll wind up just coming in and we'll do another Hydra Bob. Maybe we'll paint a taco truck. Maybe we'll just spend an entire hour on a platter of tacos. Who knows? Who knows? Things are crazy. It's hard to say. We're going to bring a little bit more light onto the subject. So we're getting a little dark because of our blacks. Our camera's being a little finicky. Back here and just layer in this. I'm not being too persnickety, especially on the back. No one's really going to see it. So once again, like we always talk about, focus on where people are going to look. And because this Deadpool is kind of doing a flip, you're really not going to see this part unless you tip the miniature up. Most people will not. So we can kind of ignore a little bit of that back and just focus on the glamour, which is right here where all of the action is happening. Smooth that out, a little bit of that. Go over. I'm using a little bit more of my pure brown Dubai now. Just kind of build in some layers. And the nice thing about leather is that, you know, when leather gets worn, it's got a lot of texture to it. So you don't have to be super clean at this point either. You could stipple it on if you wanted to. And just kind of like tap it in, give it a lot of that texturing. We can always come back through with a wash, and it's like we can just stipple those textures on, give it that nice kind of grain. So you can see here, you know, just by tapping the tip of the brush. Really shouldn't do this with a brand new brush. Maybe one of my older brushes would be better, but whatever. They're not forever friends. We've talked about this. But you can use stippling to really give yourself a nice textured leather, then go back over it with a really thin brown glaze, tie all of your colors together. There's a lot of really fun techniques when it comes to doing leathers and pulling things together and stuff. There's no real wrong way to do anything. As long as you get paint on the miniature, good enough. Don't let anyone bring you down otherwise. Dry brushing, we could have dry brushed our leathers, our Deadpool, all kinds of stuff. kind of let it flow. Hit things as you see them. Like I missed all of these back straps to his shin guards, so we'll just hit those now. Get those in there. Come back. Now I'm going to grab just, whoop, there we go. I'm going to grab just a little bit of, I think we're going to use, oh yeah, I'm going to grab Thar Brown, which is a really nice like yellow off-white. I'm going to use this as my next little mix in with my leather colors. And I'm just kind of progressing it forward. And again, if we go a little too far on it, I can always use a brown glaze to kind of pull everything back together. But I do want this to be a little extreme for the top highlights. Nachos. I saw a great post today that said nachos are just tacos that don't have their life together, which truer words have never been spoken, in my opinion. All right, so we're just going to come in, and I'm going to kind of stipple this lighter color on. Just get a little texture, go around the edge of this pouch. I mean, if that's all this stream has done is inspired a whole bunch of people to have tacos for dinner, I'm going to count it as a success. That's all we want here. So again, I'm just stippling this color on to just give a little bit of texture and feel to the leather. Make it look worn. In order to do that, just take the brush and you just tap. And synthetic brushes work great for this. You can use any kind of brush you have. But we're just going to get that little extra level of grit and feel to make this leather look like it's really worn and used. And if I don't like what I did, I can grab my blending brush like you just saw there, and I can work that out. And I want to kind of focus on the edges and places where that would really start to wear down. Come back up to these, and we can do a little bit of stippling across the edges. Like I said, if you do this and you're like, well, it seems a little too strong, you'd be amazed what a little glaze can do. You can bring everything back down and make everything look all nice and neat again. Maybe I'll come back here on this behind the, we can come back over here and stip a little bit on his back. Again, I'm not too worried about this part because who's going to see it? Only the people who view this stream, and then anyone who wants to like pick up and look at my Deadpool's butt, which is weird, but you know, I don't judge. Dallas Kemp, if you put him in a competition, certainly will, but you know, I'm not going to put this guy in competition. He's just going to go on the table. So the firm gluteus maximus of my Wade Wilson is not going to be judged by anyone but myself. So again, I'm just going to stipple this nice lighter color on. I can do the same on these back pieces here. These leg straps are attaching the holster. Straps are attaching the shin guards. Kind of rough with it. All good. You know, we're not being super precise right now. So there are probably areas where I'm going to need to go back and clean up, but that won't take too long and it'll be pretty easy to do. Or I can just kind of leave it and make it painterly and be like, oh, this is how it all worked out. This was the way that we wanted it. So there's that. I can actually come through and do a really quick dry brush on the texture on these katana ends. Looking pretty good so far. So let's go ahead and hit the katanas themselves. Let's get The whites in the eyes done. Let's get the belt buckle done. Let's get the gun. So to start, we're going to use black metal. Whoop. We're going to build all this stuff out. And I'm going to use the black metal for the pistol as well, because I find that if you use a little bit of a blackwash on it, it makes a pretty good gunmetal effect. So we'll just kind of come in here and hit that. And of course, we see that Marco did indeed, or one of the engineers, put a strap over the gun for safety purposes. So I'll have to come back and hit that in a second. Whoop, as I go completely off camera. We're going to hit the belt buckle. Get that just kind of like nice and laid down. And then maybe we'll do these little like buttons. Are they buttons? Are they clips? Are they just like bling? Are they flare? Who knows? Who knows what they are? But they're here. And I feel like they deserve a different color. So let's give them a different color. So we'll just give them a little bit of this black metallic and it'll give us a little bit of pizzazz, some sharpness. All right, and we'll just come in and really quickly base out our katanas. And I don't think Wade has the kind of mercenary money to put fancy gold guards on his katanas. These things are working katanas, so they're just going to be all steel. And we'll just get going here. Blink that out. All right. And then, just because we're back here, get the little edges on these things. Give us a little metal guard across the top of our sheaths. Look at that. Look at him. He's looking so gorgeous. He's almost a real boy. He does have a knife in his boot down here, so we can hit that as well. Technically, if we want to, we can just make it so that knife isn't sheathed. It's just hanging out, being cool. Whoop. All right. Let's grab a little bit of, we'll use thrash metal next, and we'll just put in some quick highlights. Maybe. Let's grab our pokey stick because our bottle has a little bit of a clog in it. Boo. Boo. Maybe we'll use a different color because this isn't coming out. All right, that's fine. Change of plans. We're going to use heavy metal because I don't want to mess with trying to get that clog out. So drop our bottles in their clogs. It happens, kids. It happens. All right, so I'm just going to come through. I'm going to take my color. I'm just going to kind of quickly overbrush, really, this brighter steel down. Consistent pattern. Come down. This is kind of just like faking out the glint of the light. Concentrate a bit more towards the tip, across the edges, the tip a bit more, across the edges. Now I've got that nice grain, that metallic grain patterning going on. Come back in here, maybe do like a little dot highlight. You could be really rough when painting as well. I think as this Deadpool has probably shown, it's a lot of texturing that's going on here. I'm not really worrying about being super smooth. I'm kind of just hitting things as they go. So you don't have to feel like everything has to be smooth blends and nice transitions and stuff like that. Like that's an option. You can also go a lot more painterly with it, a lot more textures, a lot more grit. You can let your colors blend and mix, you know, like we've got some mistakes here that I think I'm just gonna be okay with. Like, for example, we have this black that kind of smooshed into our red. So I might go over that one more time with a red and just kind of like smooth it out, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to let him be pretty tonal. And he's going to look a little more painterly, like he's got a style to him, because he's Deadpool and I can do that. And that's not a problem. So don't feel like you're locked into realism or comic book or whatever. Just have fun. Knock things out, make it look cool. I'm going to grab some. Where's my color? Where's my color? Where's my color? Yes? No. Ruby? 2 ruby. Garnet. I'm going to grab some Garnet Alchemy, and I'm going to use this for his belt buckle because Deadpool's belt buckle is his logo. So we want to have kind of that metallic red on the inside. So I'm just going to touch this in. Use my finger and get it off the edges there. Touch this in. Boop. Do that. Do that. Yeah, I'm touching the image. It's fine, people. It's fine. Now we've got that red glare going on. We can let that dry, and then we can hit it with a wash, and it'll look really nice. We can go back to our black, which we still have on our palette. I should say our well palette, because that's what I use, and we'll just hit this gun really quick. We'll darken that out so that it looks kind of like that. I'm going to get into this little panel here too, because we didn't hit that quite as well as we probably should have. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to go back to my brown and get that strap going on. Just a little bit more grit and grime to that. Can I fill it out? Woo! All right, I think the last thing that we really need to do, I do want to shade down this red just to get it a little darker, but we can do that here in a second. So the last thing I need to do is I need to hit those white eyeballs. So we're just going to grab, I don't think I want to use pure white. We're going to use this in the car, which is a little bit of an off-white. And pure whites are probably fine when it comes to Deadpool. Definitely not fine for eyeballs unless you want your people to look crazy. So I really kind of recommend, and I've learned this from people much smarter than me, that you want to use an off-white for eyeballs, not a pure white. It'll kind of stop the whole like, look how crazy I am eyes. Now our Deadpool here, he's pretty nuts. So eyeball one. I'm gonna flip him over. Make sure that we really lay out that expression of him raising the eyebrow within the mask. We still got 3 minutes left. Oh, perfect. Perfect. I'm going to do a really quick red wash on that metal. And then I'm going to show you my favorite card. Well, one of my favorite cards. There's a lot of good cards in that Deadpool pack. But this one always makes me giggle. So shade this down really quick, just to make sure that it's kind of nice and dark. Get that definition, those eyeballs. There. All right, so I didn't think we were going to do it, but we did it. Outside of the little rocket base, we got our Deadpool tabletop ready in 1 hour, using a lot of fun kind of sloppier techniques, a little rougher. So we've got kind of a unique look to this guy. We used a lot of stippling on the leathers, which gave them a lot of grain and look. We used our undertoning to get our reds and our blacks looking really good. So he's basically ready to go. No time flat. Now we could go back through, clean him up. We could add some stuff. His eyeball looks a little bit off, so we could fix that as well if we wanted to. I think we got a little low on our black, which to be fair, happens all the time. But if that ever happens to you, it's really easy to fix. Kind of come back in and hit your black. And you can grab that secondary brush and kind of clean it back up. There we go. There we go. Now he's got more of that like eyebrow raised. What you talking about? Kind of look to him. All right. So there's our Deadpool, 1 hour, tabletop ready. Looks so exciting. We just have to do a little rocket, clean up the base, and he's ready to go. It's probably another 20 minutes of work, but overall, pretty happy with how this character turned out. Using a lot of different techniques that are fun, quick, and very, very effective, and can be done with a pretty limited palette. So, I mean, we didn't really use a lot of paints. We mixed almost nothing except for our browns. And he's like ready to go, ready to whoosh his way to victory. So with that, whoosh, here is my favorite card. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. Whoop. So this card is called Yoink. It is one of the tactic cards that comes in the Deadpool pack. The art for this just makes me laugh every time. The action is perfectly sold. Deadpool has stolen Cable's burrito. Cable is not happy about this. So what does the card do? The card does a whole lot. This is certainly one of those cards, much like Lovable Misfits. During Deadpool's activation, he can spend 2 power to play this card. Select one of the following effects. If an allied Cable is within range 2 of Deadpool, place Deadpool within range 2 of his current position, so he can teleport, body slide by 1. If an allied Domino is within range 2 of Deadpool, Deadpool may use the grenade bounce attack listed on her stat card once this activation without paying its power cost. Future spoiler. If an allied Wolverine that is holding an objective token is within range 2 of Deadpool, place 1 objective token held by Wolverine onto Deadpool. Deadpool is now holding the token. This team tactic card does not allow the character to hold more tokens than the crisis specifies. If an enemy Bob Agent of Hydra is within range 2 of Deadpool, you may remove any number of loaded tokens from it. What's a loaded token, you ask? Well, like all good things and all good spoilers, there's more to learn going on, but that is the tactic card Yoink. Thank you all so much for joining me on this very exciting Deadpool-rific Wade Wilson extravaganza. I hope you all enjoyed the time. We'll see you tomorrow for our Wednesday kickoff stream at 1 p.m. Pacific, I believe. So same time, same channel. We're going to be going over a whole lot of cool stuff for some of the other lines that aren't Marvel Crisis Protocol from us. And then, of course, be sure to tune in on Thursday, 1 p.m. Pacific, as Dallas tackles, I believe, a taco truck. He's going to be painting the taco truck from the Deadpool and Bob Agent of Hydra pack, so I'm very excited for that. And of course, all this month, we're going to be doing a lot of awesome Deadpool content, so this is just the start of our Wade Wilson themed month. So thank you so much for joining us. Stay safe, stay beautiful, and we will see you all on the next one. Goodbye.